Today is Thursday, August the 30th, 2018, and I'm here with Dabdoub, JD07. Thank you so much for participating in the School of Law's Oral History project.
You're very welcome.
And I also want to acknowledge that you're actually a double king.
Indeed.
So, Edward, can you just take us back to where you grew up and what ultimately led you to Miami to study law?
Yes. Born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica. Went to Roman Catholic public schools, as it were, because in Jamaica there's no separation of church and state. And so I had that traditional, strict British education, Jamaica being a former colony of England. And after graduating from high school, University of Miami really was the only choice. Several reasons. There was some amount of recruiting to the high school I was going to in Jamaica. My eldest brother was at law school at the time, at the University of Miami. I think he ended up graduating in '97, and he returned to Jamaica. So he graduated in '97. At the time, I was to start college, and then of course the geographic location to Jamaica was very close. And personally, for me, it was the lure was there. It was Miami. It was a city I was very interested in, and I traveled a lot. So as a youngster, and so I was already familiar with the city and visited the campus a few times before I attended law school there. Yeah.
Okay.
College before attending college.
So it was a natural choice?
Absolutely, it felt like the right choice. It really was the only choice. I think I may have applied to 3 schools, and for me it was always University of Miami.
And what attracted you to the law ultimately?
Well, that's a good question. It's interesting. I'm one of 5 children, and my father is an attorney, and 4 of us are attorneys. So we have one black sheep who's not an attorney, and I'm sure he's happy for that. But it's one of those things where you always knew you wanted to be, and you were going to be an attorney, even if you wouldn't admit it to yourself. And so the path to me has always been to end up in law school and practicing law. I really feel passionate about being an attorney, and especially the type of work I do. And so it never really was a question about being a lawyer to me. I remember growing up in Jamaica, and my father always would take interviews over the telephone, one of those rotary phones, and I would just listen to him putting on his case, whether it's a political issue or some legal matter pending in front of some court in Jamaica that was public knowledge. And I would be fascinated by his advocacy, and I would listen intently to his conversations, and I think that had inspired me since I was a youngster.
Wonderful. So it was in your environment, it was in the climate that you were growing up?
Yeah, absolutely, probably in the water.
So let's look at your time at law school. Do you have one vivid memory of your time there?
One vivid memory, I'd say not really. I have a collection of memories, all quite fun. The interactions with the professors is what I would say has impacted me the most, and my reflections on the law school has been about interesting professors and the things that they would say, and it stuck with me over a decade.
Are there any favourite professors?
Yes, I remember torts with Professor Graham, and the way he taught torts was very interesting. It was a class I always looked forward to, because you'd crack up throughout the entire class from beginning to end, and it was an interesting approach, because I felt like it actually helped me to grasp the material much better, the way he taught it. it wasn't serious by any means. And I'll tell you something, there's a word that he used to use that's not really a word that stuck with me over the years, and I sometimes use it in my practice just to show how silly the other side's argument would be. He would say, who is worse, sir? That's the word he would use in the context of tort, right? I think it was maybe comparative negligence. Which one of these tortfeasors was worse, sir, than the other? And I find that funny. Yeah.
Aside from torts, was there a favourite class that you had?
Well, certainly I like torts, and we were speaking before we started filming. I look back fondly on Professor Massey as well. I learned quite a bit from her, and the phrase she used to use quite often that also stuck with me is something to the effect that the law is an ass. It was her way of saying it doesn't always make sense, and that's why you guys are here, to make sense of it. And so that's something that has also stuck with me, and whenever I feel frustrated, whether it's researching an issue that just doesn't make sense to me or finding ways to develop the law, I would remember what she would say, because it is true. It is true. The law isn't always right, but it's always something that we could fix and make better. And I think that's what she was getting at.
While in law school, did you have time to get involved with any of the other associations or things that were happening within the law school?
Yeah, not really, because I was married when I was in law school, and immediately started after my first year to work part-time in a law firm. And so if I wasn't on the bricks studying or preparing for class or in the library, I was at the firm, and I had a wonderful experience in the firm. So,
which firm was that?
Well, it was a firm that, incidentally, practiced the same area of law I'm practicing now. It's disability insurance and ERISA. ERISA is a federal statute that governs most disability insurance claims. And so the firm had specialized in this area of the law, and I was fascinated by it. I was very interested in it, and I was able to really, as a second-year law student, I remember I was drafting summary judgment motions in federal court for the partners of the firm to review and sign. And so I got a wealth of experience, and I was captivated by that type of work. So for me, not much time outside of the study of law and the pseudo-practice of law to do much else.
Did you have occasion to keep in touch with any of the professors or the staff after you graduated?
Yes, for a while, I would run into professors at the wellness center. Yes, I worked out there regularly until maybe a few years ago, and I would see Professor Jones. I would see some of the other professors, and we would always exchange pleasantries. I ran into Professor Alfieri a few years back. We had a lovely chat. We're both huge soccer fans. And so we spent probably 30 minutes on the bike beside each other, exercising, talking about soccer. And he's obviously very passionate about it. So, yeah, I do run into them every once in a while. And it's always, they're exactly the same way I remember them in law school. Except I think they look at me differently.
For Professor Alfieri, were you involved at all with his program?
No, I wasn't. And I should also mention Dean Lennon, Marnie Lennon. Yes, quite fond of her. She was a mentor in many ways to me in law school. Law school wasn't always easy, and she helped me through the process. I remember spending some days in her office, and she would give me heartfelt, motivational talks, and it really impacted me in a positive way. And I took her class on mediation, and that also was something I enjoyed as a class.
And Edward, can you tell us about what you learned at the law school? How did it affect you and prepare you for your trajectory now, and even perhaps the work that you do now? How did the law school help prepare you on your path?
Yeah, I'd have to say the number one thing law school helped me with is how to think analytically. College doesn't do that. Law school did that. And we could study books for hours and hours and try to memorize the citation to a case and what the holding was. But none of that matters if you're not analytical in your thought process. And I feel as though University of Miami was the law school was, it was probably the best takeaway for me from there. And to be honest with you, it's carried over in every aspect of my life. It's not just in the practice of law. It's almost like an enlightenment, if you will, after law school at the University of Miami. Just how to think analytically about any issue that could present itself. And now I own my own law firm, I run my own law firm, and my law degree helps with that, even though I didn't take a class on how to run or manage a law firm. It's a development of your thought process that's most important to me in law school.
And that expanded upon your experience. You came to law school with an MBA,
yes.
Is that right? And an undergraduate degree in economics? Or?
Undergrad in economics, yes, indeed, and a history minor. It did expand on it. The MBA gave me the tools. How to run, for example, a present value of future cash flow calculations. You got the fundamental tools from the MBA. Law school, though, was a perfect degree to follow up on the MBA because it wasn't so much as practical as how to run calculations, but it is why are you running these calculations? What is the point behind it? And to understand all of that, I find to just be much more enlightening. I mean, I can't overstate how helpful law school was. It just feels like your mind has opened up tremendously through law school, and I haven't gotten that from any other degree or any other class that I took prior to law school.
Can you talk perhaps a bit about your passion for advocacy that you had inherited from your father and how that was nurtured?
Yeah, I think a lot of the cases, looking back on it, that my father handled involved the poor and the underprivileged. Being from Jamaica, it's a third world country, and there's a lot of injustice in many countries, but particularly in Jamaica. And I think I remember being a child, and if I would pass by my father's firm, I would see in his waiting room, his sofa would have 3-4 people at any given time of the day, whatever time you're there, morning, noon, or night, just waiting to see him to discuss their problems. And he helped a lot of them without charge of legal fee. I think that's something that struck me then, and it's stuck with me now. And in my practice, we represent people who are disabled and no longer able to work. Most of our clients are destitute and desperate, and in many ways forgotten by society. Right? You're no longer capable of working and leading a productive life and contributing to the economy, and you just kind of fall to the wayside. And so I enjoy what I do every day, and this is the only thing I've ever done since being a law clerk as a 2L up through now. And I always knew when I graduated from law school, this is the path I wanted to take. This is a practice area I wanted to engage in, and I wanted to bring about some real change in this law, because it's the area of law we practice under ERISA is heavily pro-insurance, and I think the insurance companies will win the lion's share of their cases in federal court, and we've been in this firm focusing on pushing back, and one case at a time getting a small victory that can build on the next victory, which will build on the next victory until we've brought about some substantial changes in the law. And we've been doing that. it's a work in progress, but we're very proud of it, and I enjoy it very much.
Do you have any final words for any current law students who are interested in your area of practice? What would you counsel them?
Yeah, well, my area of law, ERISA, I've always said it's the area of law that nobody knows exists until it slaps you in the face. ERISA is a comprehensive statute that it covers any employee benefit plan, health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, and so the vast majority of working Americans get their insurance through work, and therefore it is governed by ERISA, but no one's ever heard of it. And law schools don't even have a class on ERISA. I think there may be a handful of law schools around the country that actually have a class on ERISA. So what I would say is most law students are unaware that ERISA exists until they get their first denial by an insurance company. So good luck is what I would say, and anybody is welcome to reach out to me at any point in time if they want to talk about this area of the law.
Edward, any kind of final comments on your connection to law that you wanted to share?
Well, once you go to UM Law School, you never stop going to UM Law School, I have been unable to physically leave the area. Right now, we're probably 4 miles away from the campus at most, and this is as far as I've ever been. All the homes I've ever owned were within 1.5 miles of the campus, and still is. Yeah, so I feel like I've never left the campus, and I often walk through the campus just to reminisce of my time there. I look back on it fondly. I enjoyed my time there. Some of my closest friends I met in law school. UM Law will always be in my heart and my mind as somewhere where I grew into the person that I am today because of all the experiences I had at that law school.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much. We're very proud of your success, and
thank you.
Appreciate your participation in this project.
Absolutely.